village madman. He came on foot, from no one knew where. His hair was rough. His clothes were torn. His feet were bare and dusty. He called himself Damola. People watched him as he laughed for no reason and talked to himself. He danced in the open square, sang strange songs, and waved at passers-by. Children ran after him, calling him names. Women crossed to the other side of the road when they saw him coming. He smells, they said. He's not normal. Damola didn't seem to mind. He greeted everyone. Most people ignored him. Some laughed at him. A few shook their heads. Only one person treated him like a human being. Kemi. She was young and kind. She brought him food in the evenings. Gave him an old wrapper and slippers. Sometimes, she sat with him and asked about his day. He would smile, nod, and thank her. Always gentle. Always calm. That girl has a soft heart, the women whispered. She shouldn't waste her kindness on a madman, the men said. But Kemi didn't stop. He never begged. He never shouted. He simply wandered, quiet and alone. To most people, he was just a madman. To Kemi, he was still a man. The queen had been sick for a long time. She never gave the king a son, only daughters. When the queen died, the village mourned, but the king was silent. After her death, the king traveled to the city. He searched for a woman he once loved, a common woman who had left the village many years ago. The king learned she had a son. This son was his child. The king sent word to the chiefs. He said the prince was coming to take his place as king. The chiefs were shocked and scared. They had hoped the king had no son. They thought one of them would become king when the time came. Now, their plan was in danger. The chiefs whispered among themselves. They worried about losing power and wealth. They feared the people might follow the prince. They planned to act quickly and secretly. They needed someone to spy and gather information. They chose Damola, the madman who roamed near the palace. No one would suspect Damola. They gave him tasks to watch the palace and listen for news. Damola moved quietly, going to places where he could hear. The chiefs met often to discuss what Damola reported. They prepared to stop the prince as soon as he arrived. The village waited. The prince was coming. The chiefs were restless. They knew the prince would soon arrive in the village. Late at night, they gathered in a hidden room deep inside the palace. Some palace guards were also there, chosen for their loyalty to the chiefs. The chiefs spoke in low voices, planning how to stop the prince from becoming king. One chief said, "We cannot let him take the throne. Our power will end." Another said, "We will kill him at the village entrance when he arrives." The guards nodded, agreeing to watch the entrance and attack when the prince comes. They spoke about the best way to catch the prince off guard. They planned how many men would be needed and where they would hide. They decided the attack must be quick and silent. But one chief warned, "If the plan at the gate fails, we have another way." He pointed to the chief cook and said, "She will poison the prince's food." The cook looked worried but agreed. She knew the chiefs held power over her. The chiefs promised to protect the cook if anyone found out. They gave Damola the poison. He was to bring it to the cook at the palace. Damola felt nervous inside but did not show it to anyone. The chiefs kept meeting often to check if Damola had news about the prince's arrival. They were sure their plan would work and the prince would never rule the village. The sun rose gently the next morning. A royal trumpet was heard far away, soft at first, then louder. The prince had arrived. But something surprised the chiefs. The king himself went to the village gate to welcome him. That wasn't part of the plan. The guards who were meant to kill the prince couldn't act with the king there. They stood back, pretending to smile. The king hugged the young man, full of joy. The villagers clapped and danced. Drums echoed through the village as the king led the prince through the streets. The failed plan made the chiefs uneasy. That same night, they gathered again in secret. The first plan failed, one chief hissed. We moved to the second. The chief cook was summoned. She received the poison Damola had delivered. She mixed it into a special dish meant only for the prince. They planned a feast in his honor. The palace grounds were lit with torches. There was dancing, music, and laughter. The prince sat beside the king, smiling as servants placed food before him. The chiefs watched closely. The cook stood nearby, frozen. Everyone clapped as he took the first bite. He smiled. Then suddenly, he dropped the bowl. His hands shook. His eyes rolled back. The hall fell silent. Then, he collapsed. Screams filled the palace. The prince was dead. Chaos swept through the palace. The king dropped to his knees, holding the prince's lifeless body. He shouted for help, but it was too late. The boy wasn't breathing. Guards stood still, unsure of what to do. The music stopped. The dancers fled. The joy vanished in seconds. Word spread fast. Villagers gathered outside the palace, whispering in shock. Inside, the king ordered the palace doors shut. No one was allowed to leave. He called the chief cook forward. What did you feed him? She trembled. The same food I gave everyone, Your Majesty. But the king noticed the prince's bowl still had some food left in it. He pointed to it. Then eat this. The one from his plate. The cook froze. That was when she dropped to her knees and confessed. She cried out, it was the food. I was forced to do it. By who? The king demanded. The chief stood quietly, faces full of pretend shock. The madman, she screamed. He brought the poison. Damola gave it to me. The room burst into murmurs. One elder laughed. The madman. He can't even tie his own wrapper. Are you mad yourself? The king's eyes narrowed. Bring Damola. He was tied and dragged in. His hair messy, his eyes calm. But he didn't fight. Kemi cried louder. No. He's not like that. He's harmless. But the king said nothing. He stared at Damola, searching his face. Silence returned. And in that stillness, something shifted. Damola sat on the cold floor, hands tied behind him. His clothes were dusty, his head bowed low. Around him, the village hall was full. Chiefs on one side. Guards standing stiff. The cook knelt, crying. The king stared at Damola. Did you bring the poison? Damola didn't speak. Say something. Chief Deji snapped. We won't cover for you. Still, silence. The king raised his voice. Let no man lie in my palace. Who brought the poison? Who gave the order? One of the guards stepped forward. He looked shaken. We were told to kill the prince at the village gate. But the king went instead. So, we waited. Waited for what? The king asked. The guard hesitated. Plan B. The food. The room went dead silent. Who told you? The king asked. Chief Deji, he said, pointing. He said the madman would supply the poison. Chief Deji shouted, lies. Lies from a frightened boy. Another guard nodded. He's right. We were promised rewards. Chief Deji led it. The king turned sharply. Chief Deji, is this true? But Deji was already sweating, denying everything. The cook broke down again. Yes. I cooked it. I put what he gave me. You gave the prince poison? Kemi asked in tears. I did as I was told. From who? The king pressed. I got it from Damola. I didn't know it would end like this. The king's jaw tightened. Chief Deji tried to speak, but the hall was turning against him. The king looked down at Damola, whose head remained bowed. Something still wasn't right. And everyone could feel it. Damola slowly lifted his head, his eyes steady and calm. The room was silent, everyone waiting for him to speak. "I have to tell you the truth," Damola said in a low voice. "The poison given to the prince, the one who died, it was not real poison." A wave of shock and confusion spread through the chiefs and guards. Some whispered nervously, others stared in disbelief. Damola looked around the room and added, "I changed the poison before giving it to the chief cook." At that moment, something happened that made everyone freeze in their place. The young man, the one believed to be the prince, lay still on the ground. Suddenly, he began to move. Slowly, he pushed himself up from the floor, standing tall. Gasps and cries of surprise filled the room. People could hardly believe their eyes. The young man spoke clearly, his voice steady but carrying sadness. "I am not the real prince. The true prince is here with you." All eyes turned toward the king. Shock, fear, and hope mixed in the faces of those present. The king rose from his seat, his face serious and calm. He raised his hand to quiet the room, looking at Damola and then the chiefs. "Yes," the king said with steady voice, "the real prince has returned long before now. Soon, the kingdom will know who he truly is." He smiled slightly, a smile full of meaning and peace. The room fell completely silent after the king smiled. No one dared to speak or move. The chiefs looked at each other nervously, unsure what would come next. Damola stepped forward calmly. "I am Damola," he said, "the true son of the king." Whispers spread fast. Many stared in shock. How could this madman, who wandered the village and smelled bad, be the prince they expected? The king nodded slowly. "After the queen died, I went to the city. I found the woman I once loved. She had my son, Damola. But I kept Damola hidden," the king said, "to protect him from those who would harm him." Damola looked at the chiefs. "You used me to spy, to plan my death." No one dared to meet his eyes. The chiefs and some guards shuffled nervously. Kemi wiped tears from her face. She had cared for Damola when others wouldn't. Now, the true prince stood before them. The king raised his hand. "These chiefs and guards betrayed the kingdom. They plotted against my son. Justice will be done." Soldiers moved forward to arrest the chiefs and guards and the chief cook. They begged for mercy but no one listened. Damola looked at the villagers. "I will lead with truth and fairness." The villagers cheered softly, hope filling the air. Damola was crowned weeks later. No loud music, no show of riches, just the quiet pride of a people who had seen truth win. He ruled with wisdom far beyond his years. Fair, just, and calm in storms. He listened more than he spoke, and when he spoke, the kingdom listened. Kemi stood beside him, not just as queen, but as the girl who once held his hands when the world pushed him down. Their love was no longer a secret. It was a song sung in every corner of the land. Simple, steady, and strong. Those who once mocked her now bowed their heads in silence. The same mouths that laughed when Damola walked barefoot to the stream now whispered his praises. Some cried. Some kept quiet out of shame. But none could deny it anymore. The boy they laughed at was king. And he never rubbed it in their faces. He simply ruled, with Kemi beside him, and a kingdom that would never forget the day truth rose from the dust and took its place on the throne. Peace returned. But more than that, dignity did.